Imagine for a moment that you are standing upon a cliff crest at the rim of the world, where the Arctic sky ignites in waves of green and violet light, and beneath your feet, foam-flecked breakers crash against the shore with an ancestral roar. The air smells of salt and pine resin, and a far-carried wind delivers the distant call of the Gjala horn, an echo from times that have not yet dawned. In this realm suspended between present and legend, every breeze seems to recall a tale as old as creation itself, a story of endings and beginnings, of courage and forbearance, spoken with the rough vibration of runes, Ragnarök. From the zenith of Viking civilization to its resonance in modern imagination, the northern apocalypse has crossed millennia like a comet of fire, tracing a path of awe and fear. The skald, minstrel of the fjords, lifted his voice beyond evening flames to tell sailors and farmers of a day when even the gods would meet death. In that firelight, the faces of kin glowed with dread and reverence, and children pulled blankets closer, seeking the warmth of certainty before cosmic darkness. The saga opens with the birth of the Nordic cosmos, when ice and fire met in an abyss and shaped giants, monsters, and at last, the Aesir gods. In that first spark of order, the seed of chaos lay hidden, for without night, light is mute. Early Scandinavians watched endless winters and blinding snowstorms, and in every flake saw the promise of cyclic destruction. Mortal and immortal beings alike joined a dance where each step formed a verse in a cosmic poem written in an alphabet of gold and snow. These storytellers of the north dwelt in harsh lands where harvests could be slain by frost and ships crushed by ice. To them, a total ending was not remote speculation, but tangible possibility. Volcanoes in Iceland sent dark clouds across the horizon, hinting that time itself might pause. Thus, Ragnarök rose as a spiritual response to life's precariousness, a grand vision meant to give pain meaning, to offer a profound narrative on how hope may sprout from ashes. The skald recounted the first omens of doom in a hypnotic sequence. First erupted the treachery of Loki, the ambiguous god of cunning who cast a shadow over fraternal trust. In societies where honor-bound communities, that betrayal rang fierce, and listeners felt disaster approach in their heartbeats. Next spread an unbroken winter of 3 seasons with no summer respite, and hunger cracked both earth and soul. The third sign climbed from deep seas as Jörmungandr, the world serpent, writhed and sought to swallow its own tail. Titanic waves pounded the coast, and houseposts creaked under water's pressure. Then broke the fetters of Fenrir, the giant wolf whose mouth flickered with fire and shadow. The ground shook as the beast shook its fur, and the sun barely rose before wolfish offspring devoured it. In a lightless world, stars resembled cold eyes watching humankind's fate. At the 6th stage, fire giants from Muspelheim, led by Surtur, poured across the Bifrost Bridge. The cosmic rainbow shattered into shards of light and crashed upon Asgard's golden plains. The gods sounded the muster. Mythic weapons. Thor's hammer Mjolnir, Odin's spear Gungnir, gleamed, ready to inscribe the last chapters of their glory. The 7th and final omen was a chorus of horns from all realms. Gjallarhorn proclaimed the ultimate battle, and its echo rolled across mountains and oceans, halting creation's breath for a heartbeat. Upon the field of Vigrid, vast as a divine imagination, armies gathered face to face. The air glowed red as though sunrise and sunset occurred at once. Odin rode the eight-legged horse Sleipnir, flanked by ravens and valkyries. Opposite, Fenrir lifted steaming fangs, wild flames mirrored in his eyes like twin suns of madness. Between them, humans and monsters, fallen heroes and perilous beings, awaited the unseen gong that would shatter ages of silence. When weapons clashed, the very fabric of reality shuddered. Odin was swallowed by Fenrir, yet his death was not a silent end but a pivot. His son Vidar placed a foot upon the beast's jaw and tore it asunder with a shoe crafted from scraps of leather discarded by every cobbler in the world, a metaphor showing how humble acts sustain heroes in supreme moments. Thor confronted Jörmungandr. After the hammer crushed the serpent's scales, its venom mingled with the air, and the thunderer collapsed to earth after 9 giant strides. Loki and Heimdall, adversaries linked by fate, dealt each other fatal blows, underscoring the theme of balance. Neither light nor darkness can exist alone. In the final moments, Surtur raised his incandescent sword and sliced the vault of heaven. The skies split into a vast wound that poured primordial magma, and the world tree's roots burned. Mountains melted, rivers boiled, and the air turned to scalding steam. Up and down dissolved, leaving only a seething sphere of despair and simultaneous hope. When flames seemed to consume every creature, calm descended like a damp cloth upon embers. From dense smoke rose a new land, green and fruitful, born from the same force that had burned the old stage. A young sun climbed the sky, daughter to the devoured star. In this light, 2 simple people, Lif and Lífthrasir, emerged from their refuge, Hodmimis Holt. They beheld a clear heaven, their eyes reflecting dreams of renewal. With tentative steps, they sowed grains in the smoking soil, turning ruin into farmland. Balder, god of light and innocence, returned from shadows and gazed across the expanse, seeing that beauty had been preserved in many ways. Beside his brother Hoder, he repaired the shattered temple, raising a new hall of judgment where the faults of the old world could be confessed without fear. Thus the myth validates not only the brutality of destruction, but also the strength of reconciliation and forgiveness. In the hymn of Rebirth resounds the ancient maxim that no night is so long it can bar a dawn. The saga's symbolism forms an alphabet carved upon the soul's bones. Wolves devouring sun and moon represent the cyclical death of hope and reason, while the rise of a new sun shows the continuity of collective consciousness. The ocean serpent is more than fear of waves. It embodies anxiety before what cannot be charted. Fenrir, the catastrophe unleashed by greed and resentment, reminds us that undisciplined rage consumes even its summoner. Surtur's flaming sword embodies fire's ambivalence. It burns, yet tempers the iron that builds bridges. Every destructive force hides the embryo of creation, and Norse thought sees in this not contradiction, but hidden harmony. The shattered Bifrost, strewn in colored fragments, reveals the fragility of links between worlds and warns that any construction, material or moral, demands communal care to endure history's tremors. The myth's ethical message shines through centuries. If gods, in their full might, accept the end with uplifted brows, then mortals can face finitude without despair. Heroism lies not only in victory, but in standing upright before the inevitable. Viking communities raised children not solely to wield weapons, but also to master poetry. for verse teaches the art of taming time. Parallel to the Nordic tale, other cultures envisioned grand finales. In Mesopotamia, the deity Enlil sent a deluge upon clamorous humans, and Atrahasis built an ark, as Lif and Lífthrasir sheltered in sacred wood. Zoroastrians speak of frashokareti, when the world shall pass through purifying fire like Surta's flames burning away dross. Christianity, in the Book of Revelation, foresees a new heaven and earth after Armageddon, where forces of light and darkness clash under divine gaze. Asian myths offer similar echoes. In Hinduism, the cycle of Kali Yuga promises universal renewal after a final war led by the avatar Kalki, recalling Balder's return. Maya tradition teaches that the close of an era heralds a cosmic beginning. Thus, Ragnarök belongs to a global symphony of fertile endings. Its uniqueness lies in its shade of courage. Gods fight knowing they will lose, yet accept sacrifice as the cost of renewal. The epic's echo reverberates in modern culture. In literature, Thomas Stearns Eliot wrote of a world ending not with a bang, but with a whimper, reflecting an internalized Nordic apocalypse. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, deeply influenced by the Eddas, crafted his own final catastrophe in Middle-earth, yet left space for restoration. Contemporary comics place the god Thor and his sister Hela in cinematic battles that present younger generations the essence of struggle between power and destiny. Video games, from role-playing quests to epic adventures, employ runic design and frozen landscapes to simulate the thrill of facing fate. Modern symphonic music, from North American composers to Scandinavian orchestras, introduces motifs inspired by the Gjallarhorn, and audience applause confirms our fascination with the same abyss our ancestors contemplated, now experienced through headsets and glowing screens. Even science, with precise language, borrows Ragnarök metaphors when describing the thermal death of the universe or the gravitational collapse of stars. Public debates on climate change evoke endless winter and apocalyptic fires, direct allusions to Fimbulwinter and Surtur's flames. Environmental activists urge human responsibility to prevent a conclusion orchestrated not by gods, but by communal negligence. The myth changes from fatalist warning to ethical call. Knowing destruction's potential, we possess the power to nurture rebirth. Museums display amber necklaces and silver bracelets engraved with Ragnarök scenes, attracting visitors worldwide. A cultural guide explains how a small bone fragment carved with Fenrir links present to a past artisan who envisioned the world's end as art. University halls project conceptual maps connecting Norse wolves to Chinese dragons, revealing that our emotions about finality are universal, though tongues differ. At last, we reach the threshold of personal introspection. What do we do with the burden of knowing all that begins must end? Some raise walls of cynicism, others compose songs to soothe fear. Yet myth offers another path. Stand upright, like Vidar, and use the fragments of burned worlds as foundations for homes yet to be built. Rather than fleeing the flames, we learn to turn ash into garden. Thus, the grand narrative arc concludes with an open question to every heart. Can we accept the universe's fragility without surrendering hope? The answer, always intimate, forms from strength of character, generosity toward one another, and courage to see beyond smoke. Just as a new sun climbs a green sky after the night of cataclysm, the human spirit can find light after any disaster, no matter how devastating. Through the lenses of contemporary cinema, directors worldwide have reimagined the Nordic apocalypse, placing fire giants' colossal swords above towers of glass and steel. In these visions, city lights die like trapped fireflies in a polar night, and futuristic planes crash into melted ice landscapes, recalling the waves Jörmungandr raises against shores. Audiences, nestled in comfortable seats, watch this ballet of destruction and rebirth with held breath, while a soundtrack reminiscent of horn blasts pulses through speakers, reminding each viewer that beneath technological spectacle, the story remains unchanged. Light fades, light rekindles, and souls ponder their place in the grand cycle of existence. In experimental art galleries, installation painters transform abandoned industrial halls into post-Ragnarök vistas. Concrete columns become charred trees, metal beams twist into fascinated serpents, and neon light pulses like a supernatural aura above valleys of pigment and smoke. Visitors walk barefoot on volcanic sand carpets, feeling underfoot the memory of Surtur's fires, while coded images open ancient-tongued audio stories on their phones, joining urban present to the skald's antique voice. Such exhibitions do not merely display collapse, they invite spectators to plant real seeds in symbolic soil, suggesting that rebirth always begins with a small, benevolent gesture from a trembling hand. Academic spheres burn with equal fascination. Doctoral theses map apocalyptic motifs across cultures, employing language processing algorithms to measure references to fire and ice in epics worldwide. At an Oslo university, seminars dedicated to Loki analyze the trickster through an archetypal lens, arguing that creative change depends on his disruptive energy. Elsewhere, anthropologists compare Ragnarok's endless winter to historical climate events such as the Little Ice Age, proving myths spring from the soil of human experience. In these scholarly gatherings, the echo of ancient ram horns seems to beat in time with modern keyboards, binding lecture halls to long-extinguished campfires. Perhaps the myth's deepest modern resonance appears in the way children, hearing the tale for the first time, discover narrative's power to soothe fear. In Nordic schools, teachers use comics and short plays to show that every mistake can lead to wisdom, and ancient figures mirror today's challenges. Children craft paper Viking ships, set them sailing in puddles, and watch tiny waves carry them on a safe adventure, testing patience and bravery. Thus, Ragnarök becomes an exercise of imagination, through which young minds learn that endings do not mean disappearance, but the chance to build something new, fairer, and brighter. When the image fades, the slow music of violins remains, and a tranquil shore appears where waves light sand with sparks of gold. No voice narrates, only the breath of one who has traveled ages of myth and reflection lingers. In that rich silence, every person carries within the seed of a fresh beginning, just as Lif and Lífthrasir bore all future humanity in their sacred shelter. Perhaps this is Ragnarok's supreme gift, not the fear of destruction, but the promise of rebirth. Thus, our journey in words concludes not with noise, but with a reverent salute to the force of creativity that has crossed centuries. Through banners of fire and curtains of ice, we have discovered that the end is part of a long strand of becoming. Close your eyes now, and you may see the rainbow bridge rebuilt from the light of your own thoughts, gleaming over an unwritten future. Open your eyes again, and today's world will be just as fragile, yet just as full of potential. At its heart beats the same ancient promise. After the darkest night, A new sun always rises,